There we go. Now I think it's recording. Hey, good morning. It is 6:36 Wall Street time. Good morning. Welcome to QuantBox Live, where we uncover the best fundamental investment opportunities across global markets. My name is Michael J. Fox. Sorry. My name is Wayne McDonald. I am the co-founder or the founder of QuantBox. I'm also a professionally trained economist. My specialty is macroeconomics, and I love trading and investing. So I love our opportunity to get together every single day. This is approximately London lunch, but it's also, New Yorkers are rolling out of bed and they want to get the trades on. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, wait, this was recorded 6:30 in the morning, you're watching it on YouTube at 10 or 11. Yeah. Well, the YouTube video is delayed. If you want to attend these sessions live or get the video more like 7 a.m., well, then why don't you try out QuantBox? Go to quantbox.co and take the trial. It's less than $8 for a week. You get a good sense of what's going on, and you get to see lots of pretty colors and lots of cool numbers. Okay. Oh, and by the way, inside of that, even in the trial, there's a macroeconomics course, which I think is what, 10, 12, 13, 14 hours long. It's included with the trial. So if you don't know anything about macro, hey, I got you covered, bro. With that being said, let me remind you that trading is risky, not appropriate for everyone. Your past performance, good or bad, is not necessarily indicative of future results. Please stay small, stay humble, focus on the long term, and never risk money you cannot afford to lose. So, going into the dashboard, oh, that's interesting. How did that get there? Principles of Macroeconomics Lecture 1. How did that get there? That should be well, I guess you can do this way. You can do the Quant Box Live. And this was the last video. So today must be Friday, the 16th of June, 2023. That's interesting that the training course video was there. Anyways, I'll figure that out. So let's log into the database and get our macro on. When you get this message, it means your browser's not logged into the right Gmail account to get associated with the QuantBox Google Cloud, right? So, anyways, you just got to change it. Cool. The other way you do it, by the way, is you can change in here. You can change your profiles. Okay. All right. Anywho, let's take a look. And Bitcoin has roared back. Now, imagine the volatility, because remember, just a day or two ago, that was like by far the the ugliest dog with the most fleas. And now suddenly it's a darling, right? It's a darling. But you could look at that as risk on, as a sign of risk on. QuantBox has it very negative, and it had a very positive day. So a score of -5, but a plus 2.7% day. Clearly having some up going on. If you look over here, you can look at these technical trends and organize them if you want. Okay, by their name or by their trend strength. S&P 500 is trending up. Everything here is now trending up. If you're looking to sell something, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 assets that are actually bearish. USD Swiss franc, USD ZAR, oil, okay, Euro pound, Euro Aussie, Euro Kiwi. These are technical trends. Kind of interesting. You might want to take a look at some of those. Right now, we're in a rally in all the stock markets across the world. It started way back May 18th, sped up near the 1st of June, and has accelerated and accelerated and accelerated as we got to the June Fed meeting. Cool, right? So this is, you can see, yeah, stock markets are up. And why do we look at that? You're like, Wayne, I don't even trade the German stock market. I couldn't tell you a DAX from an ox. Well, look, that's a sign here. When these are going up, that's a sign of risk on. And you probably want to look at buying some risk on assets. Like, well, what's a risk on asset? Well, we can go to like a smart money tracker. Okay, and it organizes these risk on assets. Think of it like platinum, gold, all that kind of stuff. Usually, when there's risk on, yen and US dollar, for example, weaken. And so we're kind of in between here. And that's where you see kind of there's a 50, 60-40 split, almost 50-50 kind of split. So people are not quite ready for that risk on, but risk on it is. It's happening. So we're caught between sort of the economic fundamentals and what the market wants to do. I'm still concerned about the S&P 500. And for example, look at this. We have a huge short on the S&P 500. Huge. We meaning institutional investors. And not to hedge, but speculative. So what this shows is, yeah, the stock market's been going up like crazy, but a lot, if not most people, don't believe it. There's something odd about it. Now, if you're looking at the Nasdaq, okay, if you're looking at the Nasdaq, the interesting thing about Nasdaq is not many of the companies are participating in the rally. Think of it like the Nasdaq is way up, but 90% of the stocks are flat, not up, not down. Can you imagine? Like 90% of them really aren't doing anything, but you're like, but the Nasdaq's flying, it's on fire. Yeah, but the problem is it's not equally weighted, right? So the biggest names are having the biggest moves and it's distorting the index. So one thing you might want to do is take a stock indice and, like, for example, can we get, instead of cap weighted, can you get an S&P 500 index that is equally weighted and see if it's the same? I don't know if there's one for Nasdaq, is there, where you have cap weighted versus equal weighted? And we might find, if you equal weight everything, so Apple's the same as much, much smaller company, then you might find, like, on the whole, Nasdaq's not actually rallying. Okay. Anywho, I want to point this out there. QuantBox does a lot of things very, very, very well. And one of the things that you should be seeing is what could occur in the summer. Okay, this June to July period historically is up. That's the 5-year average. This is the 20-year average, and this is what's happening now. So we're having up right on schedule, huh? Or schedule if that's your preference. Schedule. Look what might be coming. And then you take this further and you look at the breadth of some of these stock market indices, and you find out the breadth is very narrow, which means most companies are not actually rallying. It's something to keep an eye on. It hasn't happened yet. And the thing about technical analysis is it's factual. That is what's happening, right? That is what's happening. Cool. And then what we're looking at over here is, it's not really projective, but it's historic, and they're historic averages. And so what we're saying is, yeah, okay, it is up, but it can turn back down. Think of it as like flying into a headwind, right? If you're flying into a headwind, it slows your plane down. So you're moving at 100 miles an hour, but it's got a 50-mile-an-hour wind. You're only moving 50 miles an hour, right? If this decided to fall, there's no headwind. In fact, you got wind at your back. So it could fall, and it could fall easily, because that's what usually happens over long periods of time. So it's more like, it's not a prediction, but if suddenly you see technical analysis on the S&P 500 that goes like this, I want you to have this in mind and say, because people are going to be asking, like, is that the end of the rally? Is that the top of this? Are we going back to the, the low, 3,800 low or whatever it was, right? I don't want you to think like that, like the sky's falling. Very often you see professionals on TV and they're acting and talking like the sky's falling, the sky's falling. What if it does this? What if it does that? What do you think? You're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I just want you to look at it and say, okay, we had a rally during a rally period. Totally makes sense. Sweet. This is a turning point. July 1st, somewhere around July 1st is going to be a turning point. So July is way out here, actually. But so if you happen to see, let's say it goes to 45, or the best case scenario here is 45.56 in the next 7 days, and then you start to see a move like that, you're just like, yeah, that makes sense. No skies falling, no freaking out, no this, that, and the other thing, no guessing, no conjecture. You're like, yeah, makes sense, right on time. And you adjust your positions. Okay, cool. Now, yeah. So, anyways, we'll leave it at that. You can see definitely a technical uptrend. Okay, definitely, and you can see QuantBox values the technical trend greatly. It's definitely up, and the S&P 500 is getting a score of 2. Okay, but look at this. S&P 500 institutional investors are positioned short. Retail is positioned short, and it's going up. And historically, it starts to fall soon. It might be next week, it might be the week after, it might be the week after, but in the next 2, 3, 4, it usually wants to fall, and everybody's short. So it might be around the corner, is all I'm saying. How's that FTSE doing? Okay. FTSE, Financial Times Stock Exchange. Okay. Look at the down, 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 down. Okay. Maybe that's what's happening here. The gray line is what actually happened. So we had a down and up. We've had this rally, and it's kind of not really seasonal. So if it wants to flip and go from basically 50-50 to maybe institutional investors start shorting this soon over the summer, or at least less are long. That'd be probably the first thing. Less institutional investors are long. They go into summer, they cash out of the long positions, and maybe and so whatever, just more short. So there'd be less bulls. Okay, maybe that brings it down. We have to pay attention to some of that. Right now, it's just slightly bearish. It gets a slight bearish tint. So when this goes -2, that could be interesting. Okay, we have to talk about Japan. The Bank of Japan meeting was last night, and they didn't make any changes. Okay, now I talked about this at FX Boot Camp's swing trading group last night, and my thought about it before the meeting came out was the Bank of China, the People's Bank of China, is starting a process or a policy of stimulus. Japan's number one competitor is China. So, what does stimulus do to a currency? It weakens it. And Japan is in a process right now of basically weakening their Japanese yen through yield curve control and monetary policy. And so, the big question before last night was, is there a change coming? There's a lot of rumors that there's a change coming at the Bank of Japan, that they're going to adjust yield curve control or maybe even raise interest rates. And well, in the context of China now stimulating, they're actually cutting interest rates. Oh my God, the rest of the world's raising. What are you talking about? Well, China's in a world of hurt economically. So if China is devaluing their currency to make their products and services more affordable to foreigners, and Japan has to compete with China to stay in business, they're direct competitors. So Japan's central bank said, we are continuing to weaken our Japanese yen. Okay. That's good for the Japanese stock market. Think of it as stimulus. All right. So great. So check this out. Okay. The Nikkei up. It has a really strong score. Swissy yen, strong score. Dollar yen, strong score. Euro yen, CAD yen, Kiwi yen. Okay, these are all buys, right? Yeah. USD yen. Okay, this has a nice carry on it. Swissy yen should work in a risk off world, which is kind of interesting. It's a risk off world. Okay. You might want to look at euro. Euros, you might have watched the ECB meeting. Was that yesterday or the day before? I guess it was I can't remember. It seems like a million years ago. It might have been yesterday. But anyways, the ECB is aggressively raising interest rates. So you might turn that into a euro yen thought process, right? So we can go check. Oops. You could check the euro yen, and that might be your basis. Maybe you're interested. It's neutral now, but maybe it won't be in the near future. See, then that's not quantitative now. You're making different judgment calls. You watch the central bank. Quantitative is just the math side of it. You heard Christine Lagarde, and she said, we haven't even talked about talking about pausing. Because somebody asked, like, are you going to pause like the Fed? We haven't even talked about talking about that. We are jacking up interest rates more and more and more for, every meeting for probably a year. We're going to raise interest rates. Well, QuantBox doesn't do that. It just looks at, okay, well, they raise interest rates a quarter basis points, right? So anyway, so it's neutral, but you might want to think ahead a little bit because you're smarter than an algorithm, right? And you're like, well, I'm going to sprinkle some pixie dust on this because I know what Christine Lagarde would say. And so maybe you're actually bullish, even though it's quantitatively neutral. That would be your alpha, your ability to outperform. Okay. So, anyways, it's got a moderate score here and it's in a bullish trend. So you might want to be buying dips on this sucker, right? Now you could flip over and say, well, I want to go the other way. China is stimulating their economy, right? Literally cutting interest rates, cutting their reserve requirement ratios, and probably going to do a bunch of things behind the scenes. And you're like, oh, well, if they speed up their economy, then one of the things you might see is an expansion of the economy will require new resources. Okay. So the current import data that came out of China, I don't know, 2 days ago, was bad. Their imports were low. Like, imports are low. Yeah, Chinese are not buying stuff. Okay. Either they don't like Louis Vuitton anymore. Okay. Or they don't need iron ore and coal from Australia. But if the central bank comes in and prints some free money and pumps it into the economy, maybe we'll get some economic activity and that will demand all kinds of things, energy, raw material, and imported of finished goods, right? Just people will have money and activity. And so if you're going to build a skyscraper, you're going to need steel. If you're going to build a Tesla, you're going to need steel. How do you make steel? Iron ore and coal. Okay. Every kid that played Minecraft knows that. Okay. So you craft some steel out of iron ore and coal. Well, Australia sells iron ore and coal to China. So anyway, so your next play could be that. And, and again, that's a much more interesting narrative. QuantBox doesn't think narratively, it thinks quantitatively. So it just knows 95% of retail's traders are short this, and they're probably wrong. Okay. Currently, Aussie yen gets a reading of +1 in this category. Remember, if the retail crowd is very long, we look to short or vice versa. So they're heavily short, so we want to buy it. Mhm. It's so funny, right? And look, it's a new position. Even institutional traders are not in this yet. This might be a new trade because this data is happening now. Terrible import-export data. Wah, wah, wah. And then the People's Bank of China came in, stimulus, and probably more stimulus. Whoa, 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 whoa. And that's your job now to think think ahead. It's neutral, but maybe you want to be bullish. So now you pull up your charts and you look for dips, and you don't want to buy Aussie yen at resistance. So you wake up in the morning and you say, "Well, that's my narrative. I want to play the China stimulus package through the Aussie yen." Bank of Japan just told us they're not going to do anything about a weak yen. They want the yen to be weak. So now your next play is, well, if the Chinese economy improves, you're gonna invest into that using Australian dollar. But we don't know if it's going to happen, and we don't know if it's going to happen 4 months from now or 4 days from now. So you still have to do your job. But QuantBox says, well, you know what? It is an uptrend. Okay. Back at the beginning of June, we're at 90. 7 days from now, it looks like we'll be at 99. That in the last 30 days, right? It's moved up 900 pips, 9 big ones. Okay. 9 big numbers. Oh, and you're going to get paid a positive swap, and in the future, get increases in that. Cool. So you might want to take a look at that. And with that being said, this has been QuantBox Live for a Friday. What was it, the 16th? Something like that. So again, hey, if you're watching this on YouTube, why don't you give the try the trial? And to everybody else, have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful trading day. I'll see you when I'm seeing you. Thank you for being a subscriber to QuantBox.co. Cheers.